Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome to another quick tank review. This time we're going to be looking at the E-25, which is a Tier 7 German premium tank destroyer. Now the E-25 is a highly mobile, rapid-fire blitzkrieg of a tank that uses its mobility to out-position its enemies and use its rather impressive 75mm to rain death upon them. If that sounds like the tank for you, then stay tuned. I've got some gameplay coming up, and if you have no interest in this premium vehicle, then I'll show you how to take them out effectively on the battlefield. So the E-25 costs 6,700 gold to purchase. And as it is tier 7, it can make substantial amounts of credits for each battle it participates in. Now it goes without saying that as it is a premium vehicle, you can use any of your German tank destroyer crew in this vehicle for no penalty. Now this vehicle has 830 hit points, it weighs just shy of 27 tons when it's fully equipped, and it has a whopping horsepower of 700. That gives this tank a ridiculous horsepower to ton ratio, which is made even sweeter considering this tank has a 65 km/h top speed limit and it's got 44 degrees a second traverse speed, meaning it can bomb it round almost as if it's a light tank, or at least a rather quick medium tank. Now all this speed does come at a cost. It has 50mm frontal armor, 30 at the side and 30 at the rear. Let's just take a look at this in What Tank Viewer to take a look at this in some more detail. So here's our E-25, and here's its armor profile with a key at the bottom. Now even though our tooltip says the top armor is 80 on this tank, it is only a ring around the gun that is 80mm thick. The rest of the frontal armor is 50, and the sides and the rear of this tank are a rather uniform 30mm. It should be noted that the cupola on the top of the tank is 30mm, so if you only have the front of this tank and it's angling rather well, then you can take advantage of this. And with the knowledge of this, you can penetrate the E-25 from any angle with practically any tank that it's going to meet. Now the top of this tank provides little protection. It is 20mm thick, and this means that if this tank does get hit by artillery and from above, it's not really too hard of a target to pinpoint. It's going to get absolutely smashed. Just to quickly go over the spaced armor on the front of the tank, this whole area here is 50. This beak area here is 25. And if for some reason you can see underneath the tank from this angle, there's an area of 10mm here. One thing that is quite nice about the E-25 is if we hide this spaced armor, we can see there's actually quite a small area that provides no protection, i.e. has 0mm of armor. And the rest of the area that's underneath this 50mm of spaced armor is another 50mm of regular armor. What this means is that if you're tanking in the E-25, you can think of this as being effectively 100 plus. So if you're trying to avoid damage in the E-25, you really have three opportunities. One is the fact that the armor on the front is so well angled, even if it is only 50mm thick, if you can angle it like this, then you might be able to bounce some lower caliber targets. Secondly is the tracks. The tracks are 25mm thick. They will absorb some of the damage from the shot, so tank with your tracks if at all possible. And finally, as we mentioned, there's effectively 100mm of thick armor directly behind the gun. So you know that the E-25 is highly mobile, and its armor, while isn't the thinnest, is quite well angled, and the tank does have some fairly good protection with the Mantha. This means that the gun on this tank is not particularly overwhelming for a tank destroyer. It's a 75mm that, well, it does fire a very impressive 20 rounds a minute, with 150mm of penetration with its standard rounds with 135 alpha damage. Now the tank is pinpoint accuracy of 0.3 and the aim time is negligible at 1.5. Now if you do want to fire premium rounds in this tank, they are going to set you back a fair amount of money. They cost 2,800 a shot, but they will provide you with an extra 44mm of penetration. And considering this tank can meet tier 8 vehicles, you are going to have to fire a few premium rounds, specifically at tier 8 heavies. Let's just see how this armament compares to the other tier 7 premium tank destroyers in the game. So we're on Tank Compare and we have the E-25 on the left, the Su-122-44 in the middle, and the British AT-15A on the right. So the health differences are negligible. The signal range is the same for the E-25 and the Su-122-44, while the British tank destroyer flags behind by 130 meters. Again, the British tank destroyer is ridiculously slow. The Su-122-44 can go at a middly rate, while the E-25 leaves both vehicles flagging behind. Now interestingly, the E-25 can go rather fast backwards at 20, which can give it a good amount of flexibility to maneuver and to often avoid tanks that are trying to ram you, which is important considering the tank weighs 26 tons. Now due to those mobility and weight differences, the armor, as you would expect, is much weaker than the Su-122-44 and massively weaker than the AT-15A. Now the engine power on the E-25 is much better than the Su-122-44, even though it's lighter, and even better than the AT-15A, which means that its horsepower to ton ratio simply leaves the other tanks lacking. Now its traverse speed is only slightly better than the Su-122-44, and now this is an interesting one. The tank actually gets worse terrain resistances than the Soviet vehicle, as well as having a 5% higher chance to be set on fire. Now the view range in the E-25 is lovely. It's 360 meters, which is 30 higher than the Su-122-44, which is very blind indeed. And the traverse speed leaves both of the other premium Tier 7 tank destroyers flagging behind. Now the gun arc on this tank is better than the Su-122-44, but much worse than the AT-15A. Now this is the main comparison, the gun. So you have to shoot a target nearly 3 times for every time an Su-122-44 hits the target. And your alpha damage is even slightly lower than the AT-15A. It's also worth noting that your HE rounds, as they're so low caliber, will be pretty much garbage, whereas the 122mm fired by the Su-122-44 will be fairly competitive. Now your penetration is 21mm worse than the British vehicle and 25 worse than the Soviet vehicle. And your premium rounds are massively lacking behind the British vehicle and still lacking behind the Soviet vehicle. What's interesting as well is considering you have to fire 3 shells for every time the Soviet vehicle has to fire, your gold costs would become astronomically more expensive should you choose to fire premium rounds. Now looking at the rate of fire on these vehicles, the E-25 fires 20 rounds a minute, the Soviet vehicle fires 7.5 rounds a minute, and the British vehicle fires just shy of 14 rounds a minute. So if we look at the DPM, the Soviet vehicle has massive amounts of DPM more than the British vehicle, nearly half. That's just simply ridiculous. And even 10% more than the E-25. Now what makes this even worse is the fact that you do have to fire and hit 3 rounds with the E-25 for every round that you hit with the Soviet vehicle. And when you fire the first shot, the enemy will be like, oh gosh, maybe I should pull back. So quite often with the Su-122-44, you can ambush a lot harder than you could with the E-25. And even still, your DPM is better, even though you've got much higher alpha damage. However, the E-25 is more accurate than the British vehicle and significantly more accurate than the Soviet vehicle. And its aim time, which is extraordinary, it's 1.5, is better than the British vehicle, but it's massively better than the Soviet vehicle. And let's not forget about the gun depression. It's 8 degrees, which, albeit is worse than the British vehicle, is double that of the Soviet vehicle. Now I've just compared the 3 Tier 7 premium tank destroyers in the game, and unless you went looking, you wouldn't be able to find out one of the most important differences between the E-25 and the other two. And that is that the E-25 gets premium matchmaking. It can never meet Tier 9 vehicles, while the Su-122-44, and for some bizarre reason the AT-15A as well, can meet Tier 9 vehicles. And because of this, it makes the E-25 very much more competitive than it otherwise would be against the other 2 tank destroyers. So that's quite enough theory crafting. Let's see how it does in some gameplay. So here we go, I'm playing on Lakeville along with Jingles in his E-25 and Ike is driving in his and Panther M10. Oh no. I always laugh at Ike when he has to play that monstrosity. So, straight up, I am going to rush the center of the map with the E-25. I want to get spotting for my team. And I want to make use of the camo rating to put pressure on my opponents quickly. So here we go. First shot, a bounce. A bounce. I decided to load premium rounds already because with the 150mm of penetration that I have, it's very hard indeed to penetrate any of those Tier 8 vehicles, even in the side. So we've managed to do 2 damaging shells already, even though we fired some premium rounds. I'm firing regular rounds now, but you guys are going to get a very brutal awakening about what this 75mm is capable of. Still, I held that IS in position and completely wrecked him. Now we're looking for the side of this T-32. Hopefully he continues. Now he's going to stop. And we've lost sight of him. So we didn't get spotted once during that entire barrage that we put on the opponents. The camera rating on the E-25 is quite nice. Even though I don't think I'm using a camo net here. I think I use a rammer and vents on this vehicle. So there's a KV-13. It's a Tier 7 Soviet medium tank. We have shots into his side. And look at this rate of fire. Some really nice DPM here. And you're really seeing this .3 accuracy. So I'd rather shoot the KV-13 in the side than the front of an IS, that's for sure. Now we've taken him out, we're going to start shooting at the IS. That's 2 bounces so far. 2 bounces and 1 pen. 3 bounces and 1 pen. And now I'm firing premium rounds because I got frustrated. And oh, here's an ELC. Oh, not today, ELC. Not today. And that's the kind of mobility that you get in the E-25. Now we're just going to stay hidden until we re-stealth. I was able to quickly negotiate the terrain and take out that pesky little light tank. So now we're going to engage this IS again. Oh, we got spotted that time. Let's pull back. Looks like that T-43 was able to catch a glimpse of us. So we're going to remain back in cover until we're not spotted again. And wow, here we go. I think that is the back of a Carnarvon. I got spotted, but I've just decided that it's not a Carnarvon, sorry, it's a Centurion. And we set him on fire. Now we need his lower plate. There we go. We did 828 damage to that Centurion just that quickly. And that is one of the most dangerous vehicles you're ever going to meet, really, in the E-25. It's a Tier 8 British medium tank. And that's right at the end of this vehicle's matchmaking. We're able to decimate it so quickly. So this IS is pre-aimed for us. And we get spotted. We get quite lucky that he tracks us. We repair the track and we pull back. I think it must be this T-43 that's spotting us, so I decide to put some pain on him to try and take him out quickly. Oh! And we finish him off. So really, what I'm showing you this replay is so you can get an idea of the gun performance on the E-25. So far we've had a meaty game by any standards in the E-25, finishing on 3,000 damage that we've seen already. I'd be very happy with this. We didn't penetrate. We missed that shot. That was a poor shot. It looks like he's back into cover. There he is. Okay, we've tracked him. Didn't pen him. Shell's missing. So, we're bouncing more, even though we're firing premium rounds now. This E-25, sorry, the T-32 is very much worried about us because I don't think he can see us from here. I really wanted him because it would have been a Top Gun if we'd been able to pick him up. Looks like Jingles is about to go ham on the T-32. Oh, he just actually cut right across him. He wants the T-32's flank. And unfortunately, Ike gets picked apart in his Panther M10. Now, looking back on this replay, I've made a massive mistake here, really. I could have had a fantastic game here. All I needed to do was, about a minute ago, realize that I could have used the mobility of the E-25 to rush into position to be able to engage my opponents in close quarters. However, because of my armor and the fact that I'm reduced now to 381 hit points, all I have to do is really get sneezed on by the enemy, and I'll be in a lot of trouble. And so, I decided to keep the fight at long range, and all that it meant is that we didn't get our Top Gun, and we spent the last minute of the game not really doing much. This replay was more or less focused on the gun performance of the E-25 and how it does at long range. You saw the limitations of the penetration of the tank, even when firing premium rounds. However, it should be considered that this matchmaking is as bad as it could be in the E-25. And usually you're firing at tier 5, 6, 7 vehicles rather than the amount of tier 8 heavies that we were trying to engage at long ranges here. Anyway, let's take a quick look at the post-game stats. So that was a mastery badge in the E-25, and that was about it. Just a mastery badge. No battle hero medals at all. Mostly because of the passive play that we had at the end of the game. Now, many people will buy a premium vehicle to make money. As we can see here, we made 77,000 credits with a premium account. Now, we spent 32,000 on ammunition there because of the premium rounds that we did have to fire, but still, we made 42,000 profit. This was exactly 1337 base experience, which was 8,433 WN8. Now, the accuracy on this tank, we hit 42 out of 48. Of those 42, 28 penned. However, of those penetrations, it doesn't seem like some of them actually did damage, as we only did 3,212 damage overall. So this replay was a gun test of the E-25. Let's take a look at how it performs when it needs to use its mobility. So now we're playing on Karelia, and this is more of what I would call better matchup for the E-25. This is more normal, is what I was trying to say. The fact that now there are about 6 tier 7 vehicles on the enemy team, the rest being tier 6 and tier 5. So we're just going to set up in the middle with our binoculars and hopefully spot some enemies right at the beginning. The idea is that we're going to try and catch the scouts and the faster vehicles and put these binoculars to use. Lovely. One right into the 5916. We have a heavy vehicle. I believe the VK3601H is now a heavy tank coming right across the middle. We put one into him. I gave a little bit too much lead on that shot. I don't know why I'm shooting the front of his tank so much. But that's where his engine is. And hooray, 713 damage done to that VK very quickly. Not the most successful game for that tanker. Now we have shots on this Hellcat. Oh, lovely. No more though, no more. So we're doing some good scouting. Well, at least we were doing some good scouting at the beginning. Now that KV-1S has put himself into a good position where he should be giving us a forward set of eyes. But I decide that I want to have a little bit more from this game. So I advance through the swamp, stopping to see if we have shots on the T1 Heavy. We don't have any shots there at all. So what I'm doing here, looking back on it, is actually quite dangerous. We haven't really spotted much of the enemy team. And if I was to get lit up, then there's no doubt really that the enemies that would be on that ridge line up there, just like that T-25-2, would be able to take me out fairly quickly. However, this is a nice opportunity for the E-25 to be shooting at a T-25-2. It's just a shame we weren't able to get more shots on target. So wow, the DW2 and an IS and a Type 34 are going after that Hellcat. And I rush over initially thinking that I can save him. And then I just think about how bad this is for me. Why am I here? Why did I try and help that Hellcat? Oh god, let's get out of here. And as you can see, the E-25 is very capable at running away, being a brave, brave, brave Sir Robin. I decide that I can stop here and avoid fire. From the west, we were getting shot out by a number of tanks there. Now, unfortunately for me, I've put myself in a very precarious position. There are 2 tier 7 heavy tanks located up the north. What I'm going to do is try and distance myself from the T-25-2 and the flanks that were coming up from the south, and try and engage these tanks to the north. And here we have an M4A3 E8. We track him with our first shot. He repairs. I didn't think he was going to repair as quickly as that, but he did. I tried to track him again. Unfortunately, the shell goes a bit low. He fires an HE shell at us with his 105mm. And unfortunately, one bounce means that he's able to fire at us again, but thankfully, he only splashed us meaning that we get to keep most of our health left. So you saw there just how easily we were able to take out that tier 6 medium tank. Thankfully for us, he wasn't using the more punchy gun that could have probably done a lot more damage to us. And he was firing HE ammo with his 105. So what my plan is here is to try and sneak up to be able to attack the Tiger 1 that's below me. And yes, this is where you want to be in an E-25. 130, 270, 398, 522, 657, 786. You don't get many better opportunities than that. That Tiger looked like he was floundering around, unable to deal with us. And our 75mm putting round after round into the side and rear of his tank. Bit of a donkey drive there by me. I think I giggled a bit while I was playing that back on the live stream. But still, my plan is to sneak around, put some pressure up on the enemy. This game's still fairly even. We're only up by one tank. And you can see here just how mobile the E-25 is. It's like a little racing car. So what we're going to do is situate ourselves up here and activate our binoculars. The enemy have got one artillery, an M44, and really if he hits anywhere near us, he's going to wreck our vehicle as we do only have half of our hit points remaining. Unable to spot him, I decide that it's time to continue. Now what I'm thinking right now is that if I was to go up onto the enemy's sort of camping ridge, there'd be a T-25-2 waiting for me. Am I going to win an engagement against a T-25-2 that the last time I saw him, he still had about 750 hit points remaining? I could, if I was able to outmaneuver him, but it's risky. All he needs to do is to be aware of my situation and put 2 rounds into me, and I will die. So instead, what I'm doing is going hunting. I want to know where this artillery is. The artillery usually hang around the back here, so I was quite surprised that I was unable to find him. But again, now that probably means that the artillery is going to be situated up with that T-25-2, and that makes me want to go up there even less. However, we can use our fantastic mobility to outflank our vehicles. This DW2 doesn't have a clue. Good night. Whoa! That would have been a nice clutch shot if he'd been able to put that one in there. Now we're looking for damage on the IS. We can just about get it. One into the back of his turret. We fire 2. And we decide to move. So the M44 just rushed off his mound straight towards our base. Looks like he got a bit fed up of the enemy team for camping on an assault map. And with only 3 minutes left in the game, I think that M44 decided that he was going to carry it single-handedly. But I'm not complaining. I think we've got an absolute ambush opportunity here on the enemy. I still need to be careful though. That T-25-2 is definitely within range to shoot me, and his 90mm can take me out very quickly indeed. So I'm going to try and get objects between me and the T-25-2, or simply get out of his render distance. Here we go, a lovely opportunity on an E-25. And the Jackson gets taken out. Now we've got a T1 and an IS in an undisclosed position. Ah, there's the T1 Heavy. And check out the maneuverability of this vehicle using that very high track traverse. Oh, there's an IS there actually. So we wait for the T1. No, we decide, okay, this IS doesn't know where I am. He's advancing, he's advancing. Let's make this kill shot. Oh, a bounce. But thankfully he angles his tank more flush so that we're able to penetrate him. Who put that there? Who put that there, I think I was saying when that happened. Oh, there's a Type T-34. Put 1 into him. 2. 3. 4. And that's how quickly you can take out the entirety of a Tier 5 tank in the E-25. Again, just check out the maneuverability on the E-25. It's absolutely beautiful. And that T-25 too that we've been going on about for so long is here. We're going to try and use this rock to avoid fire. And oh god, he puts a shot into the back of our tank. Great shot by him there. He put an absolute little... Let's just pause that for a second. Look at that little skim shot. He had the smallest amount of my vehicle there to be able to put a shell in. I believe it was this one up here. And if you get hit in the back in the E-25, looks like it's got a very high chance to set you on fire, as this does have a petrol engine. However, we're going to use this rock to try and avoid fire from the T-25 too. I don't really want to die at the end of this game and feed this guy a kill. I'd rather wait till I get a bit of backup. Hopefully put 1 or 2 shells into him myself. And there he is. I decide to drop down the slope. I don't think he can see me because of the low profile of the E-25. I'm just hoping that he misses. He does. So I reverse up to put a shot into him. But thankfully the Tiger and the IS finish him off. And there you have it, a textbook example of E-25 gameplay. You got to see how the gun works. And you saw that the E-25 has the mobility and the flexibility to keep that gun singing. The key to E-25 gameplay is to try and avoid as much fire as you can and outmaneuver your opponents so that you can have the tactical advantage on them. Anyway, let's just take a quick look at the post-game stats. So this time we got a series of Battle Hero medals. We got a High Caliber medal, a Top Gun, and a Tank Sniper medal. We made nearly 96,000 credits, of which 87,000 were profit, as we didn't have to find nearly as many premium rounds because of the fairly standard matchmaking of this game. So this was 4,448 experience, 4-hour double, that's 1,483 base, which is undoubtedly a mastery badge, just shy of 10,000 WN8, this time traveling 3.76 kilometers. So we took 3 hits, of which 3 penetrated, and we didn't have very much health left at the end of the game. From that, you guys should have got a fairly good idea of what the E-25's armor is, and that's that just don't depend on it, don't depend on it at all. And if you see an E-25, fire everything that you've got at it, because it's very likely to take it out rather quickly. So hopefully those 2 replays showed you everything that you need to know about the E-25. It's a fun little tank and I do fully recommend it. Personally for me, I feel that the penetration is rather underwhelming, and without a turret or any armor it's rather tricky to make it work sometimes if you can't simply outmaneuver your opponents. For me, I'd probably rather play an Su-122-244, but it's a completely different kind of tank that will match a completely different kind of playstyle. One of the things that's exciting about the E-25 is that next patch, all of the tank destroyers, apart from the premium ones, are going to have their camo rating slashed after they fire. That means that there's a real opportunity for the E-25, especially if maybe you drop out the vents for a camouflage net, to be one of the few remaining overpowered tank destroyers with regards to firing and not being seen. There's no doubt that the E-25 can make a ton of credits, and if you already have a German tank destroyer crew, then I fully recommend this vehicle, if just for skill training, or if you want to just take advantage of the money-making capabilities of it. And for me, at least, it is certainly a hell of a lot more fun than the other premium German tank destroyer. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this tank review. If you did, or it was just useful to you, please consider liking the video down below. I'd really appreciate it and it really helps me out. And let me know what you think about the E-25 in the comments below. Do you absolutely love this vehicle? Do you hate meeting them on the battlefield? Do they really troll you? Or maybe you've bought one and you've really disliked it? Let me know what you guys think. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.